Hi, and welcome to our podcast, Shockers Learning Out Loud.
I'm your host, Dr. Amber Anderson.
And I'm your host, Dr. Pam O'Neill.
Join us as we discuss everything online and adult learning.
Go, you're on.
Welcome to our Shocker Learning Out Loud podcast. Our very own Dr. Pamela O'Neill and I, Dr. Amber Anderson, are back again, and we have invited our OAL specialist, Suzanne Bentley. Yay!
Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, do we want to get into questions, or do we want to get into why I picked and hired her?
How do you want to start us off, Suzanne?
She's the best of the best.
Yes.
We can just start with any of that. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm fine with answering
I
some
think
questions.
let's start with K-State, and you worked with new students and also advised. Maybe talk about how you left there and came here.
Yeah. So, yes, I worked at K-State for, I was in Manhattan for about 7 years after living overseas, living on the East Coast, the West Coast. I grew up in Kansas, though, went to K-State. And I worked there, yes, as an academic advisor, and I worked in 2 different departments, working with students throughout their entire academic journey, and both in the human development major and kinesiology. Did a lot of really cool things during those experiences, working with creating a program that was a peer mentoring program.
Yeah.
An ambassador program that was focused on really connecting with freshmen and also helping recruit, not really recruit, but helping to
Bridge the gap.
Well, when students would seek information about the major, current students would really talk about their experience so that juniors and seniors in high school and their parents could get a really good feel, not just from the faculty and from me as the advisor, but from students as well that are currently in there. So did a lot of cool things like that, taught classes, taught an internship program, but life happened and brought me to Wichita.
I love life things.
I didn't think I would ever move to Wichita. But here I am. My mom lives here, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm very happy that this opportunity opened up for me.
Their loss is my gain. Our gain. I'm not mad at it.
That's right.
Okay, and so to be clear, we do have a lot of coaches and success coaches and academic coaches, and then there is you. Can you kind of talk about how you're different from an academic coach?
Sure. And so I see my role as being different in me really being tuned into the specific challenges that the adult learner or the online learner has. So there might be some overlap, and that's okay, but I'm trying to come at these different challenges from that lens and that perspective. So that's kind of how I see my role as different. Everything that we've done since I've been here has really been a focus with how is the adult learner going to receive this information and how am I going to deliver it in a way that is more geared towards them.
Yes.
And I've seen you, Suzanne, work with our adult learners, and what I really like, and I've heard from adult learners with whom you have spoken, is this kind of strengths-based approach that you take.
Right.
I think that's when adult learners come in, and I myself was this way, you almost feel like you're at a disadvantage because of who you are as an adult learner. They don't always recognize the strengths that adult learners bring to the table, and I think that's something that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think it's really important. K-State was a strength-based campus, so I was really happy to learn that Wichita State is also a strengths-based campus, and that's something to really tap into. And for just using that resource and that terminology of starting to talk to students about what that even means.
Right.
And they come in, thinking they're at these disadvantages, and there's so many strengths that they naturally have that we see. I think human nature tends to think about what we're not good at.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
so we
Yes.
all need to be reminded about what we are and those strengths that we have. And it's easy, I think, for us to see that in our adult learners and to point those things out to them. if
And
they need
ourselves, for sure.
Right.
We have 4 workshops that Suzanne
Yes. Right. Right.
presents, and it's all about finding your why and making your goals smart. And let's see,
What were some of your other ones that
imposter
you did?
syndrome.
limiting beliefs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That included that imposter syndrome.
Right.
And
That
I'm-
was a part of that.
And I'm hearing more and more of that come from adult learners, and I'm glad we're addressing it because I didn't realize how long I had gone with that imposter syndrome, and figuring out what it was. One, that it was actually a thing, and that I could overcome it. And so I
That's
think
right.
that's what you're trying to do. Some of these through these workshops, right?
Right. I think that limiting beliefs workshop was the most powerful one
I do
because
too.
it's so relatable. And it's emotional for
It
people.
is.
It
Right.
taps into some really deep rooted insecurities.
And that was our goal.
Yeah. Right. So I would love to build on that because I do think there's a lot to work with.
So what I'm hearing is more workshops in the spring. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do some more workshops, and we
For sure.
haven't decided yet if we're going to continue on with some of those concepts or do brand new concepts. So we're still kind of working that out. But I would like to do some combination of building upon what we've done, but also partnering with some other offices around campus
Right.
too is, I think, something we are looking into doing as well.
So what I'm hearing, Mamie, is if you're an adult learner or even work on Wichita State campus, if you have some ideas, send them our way. Yeah.
Absolutely. We are out
Absolutely.
very open to the ideas for the spring.
I was just listening to a podcast about adult learners, and the main point, one of them was to listen to your adult learners, and that's what we try to do here. And I think that's exactly what you're doing with your work with this strength-based, is listening to the adult learner and kind of putting them in the driver's seat, if you will, of their education.
Yeah, thanks. It's not gonna be worth my time to do something that I'm interested in,
Right.
If it doesn't help.
if it doesn't help the student. So
Yeah.
I really think that all of us are trying to get feedback from students and what do you want to know more about? What will bring you in? And so we just would love those ideas of what students are really wanting more of.
Yeah. So far, our workshops, we mainly just want to prevent burnout, because you guys are working full time and going to school, and we don't want you to get to a point in the middle of semester where you just want to drop everything, because you're overwhelmed. So that was kind of the point of our workshops.
Right.
Yeah, and making it worth your time.
Yeah.
You're going to spend an hour with us. We want you to have something to take away.
Yes.
All right. So with that being said, I'm looking at, we always have these lists of questions, right? We're asking our guests here.
Yes.
And so I think one that comes naturally next is, what advice would you give to an adult or an online learner here at Wichita State?
Oh gosh.
And is there a super difference between the two, on-campus students versus online program students?
So the advice I would give is to not compare yourself to other adult
so
learners.
Oh, man.
But that's the
Right.
advice, to give to most anybody. But the way it applies for adult learners is, just thinking, one, like how many hours you should be in. If you're not full time, are you not as good as your peer,
Right.
sitting next to you? And just really remembering that your situation is your situation, and if you have to know your limits of what your family. Not all adult adult learners have kids. Not all adult
Right.
learners have spouses.
True.
You know, so not all adult learners are the same. And so just don't compare yourself to other students,
'Cause
whether that's a
everybody's
peer or
Different journeys.
it's
Yeah.
we're all on a different journey.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if it takes you 6 years, you know,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's okay. We'll be here for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so can you kind of talk to us about the life coaching certification program you're currently in?
Yeah, I would love to. So, you know, when I first started and had coaching in my title, I feel like I have experiences for that, but I also felt like, well, it'd be nice to get some actual training centered specifically on coaching strategies. And so my awesome supervisor,
Oh my gosh, who is that?
Dr. Anderson, approved me. I looked into all sorts of different programs out there, and I really wanted one that was flexible, but also had a live component, you know, not just like work through these modules. I really wanted that interaction that was live. So I found a program, and it's called the Training Alliance, and it is, we meet once a week. They make sure that they keep a small cohort, so 10 students, there's 10 of us, and we meet once a week for 22 weeks. So it's not just like you work
Yeah.
through these,
5 weeks, boom.
right, and you're done and you're certified and you're a coach. You know, we really have a lot of different components we have to do. We have to do sample sessions. So
I saw
any-
that, your
yeah.
post on social media where you had to welcome anybody that wanted to do a session with you. So it's very interactive.
Yes, that was very much out of my comfort zone
Uh-huh.
too. I don't like asking for those things.
Yes.
So actually, I as part of my job, I coach. So I would love to have more students. You know, you're doing me a favor to help coach you. So any students out there that really feel like, I'm curious about this coaching. What's this all about? Come make an appointment with me, because it's also something I need to get more of these sample sessions in.
Right.
And it's part of my job, but this helps me be better at my job too. So
I think that's something that we find, especially working with adult learners, is that it's an iterative process. We are always learning. I always talk about how I came to Wichita State in 2002 as an adult learner. Well, guess what? Here we are 20 years later. The world looks different for adult learners than it did when I came in. So it's constantly changing, and we are too, and we never stop learning. And I think that's the point you're
Yeah.
bringing here.
absolutely.
And it's something that I'm always looking at, right now, listening to, we're a member organization of UALI, Urban Adult Learner Institute. And I'm learning through those. And so that's one thing that we try to do here is we realize that you can't be stagnant in what you do, that it's always a learning process.
Evolving.
Or yeah,
Same
yeah.
for online.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can speak a little bit about, right, Amber,
Yeah.
over the years of how online looks different than
Yeah.
it used to.
Yeah. Let's see, we started offering programs in 2015, and we just keep adding, and we have about 1,600 students now.
Nice.
And COVID was interesting. Faculty members teaching online was interesting. But what was interesting about COVID is that students enrolled in our online programs, all of that is planned out for them to not be on campus, not to ever have to be here. They can do it
Right.
all online. So our enrollment numbers during that time, they stayed the same. And we had
Yes.
some nursing drop off,
Right.
but yeah, and it's just changed year after year, and it'll still change year after year. I have to be
Right.
flexible.
Yeah. And so you're flexible too, Suzanne, I know, in that meeting students online, in person.
Right. Yeah, and I've tried to offer, workshops have been offered in the evening, but that still doesn't work, for
Right.
adult learners. They
Right.
also have
We're
always
family
trying to meet-
responsibilities.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, I've offered to do workshops one-on-one. Also have offered some evening hours for students that really can't meet during the day at all. If you're on campus but want to meet online, that's always an option.
Right.
So yeah, trying to definitely meet students where they're at. And if it feels like we're not doing that, we want to hear from you and like what can we do to meet you where you're at.
Absolutely. You even try to pop up in the RSC.
Try to pop up.
And
That's right.
We've tried to do general lunch drop-ins
Mm-hmm.
where
Yep.
people could drop in as they're at work.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and I think what we've been saying all along is send us your ideas. We're open to,
Yeah.
what else would you like to see or hear? How do you want to meet us? How can we help you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Suzanne, I'm going to take this kind of off. It's not even on. Cool, questions
Do
aren't
it.
on that. Thank you. Thank you.
I like it. Go Rogue.
Yeah. You have something, and it's either on your wall or on your door or something about meeting students or.
Right.
Yeah, and what is that exactly that says? Because I think that embodies who you are,
Who you
and I
are.
love it. Yeah.
Right. It's my why about
Yes.
creating safe spaces for students, and which is my general what I want to create an environment of that I will provide the space for students to come and bring their authentic selves.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I try to embody and hope that students feel when they come into my office.
I think it does set a vibe for the office here.
Right.
Also, it's workshop number 1.
Right. Right.
Finding your why statement.
Yes,
if you want
finding-
help with that.
Yeah.
That's right. Finding your why statement. And that's something that I started really thinking about years ago when I was teaching the internship class, and I had all these students that wanted to go out and do work in service organizations, but they knew they wanted to help people. They didn't know how or what that looked like, because there's so many different ways to
Yeah.
do that. And
Right.
so that's when really I got introduced to the concept of finding your why, which is something that we did in our first workshop this fall. That's right.
It is.
Yeah. And I think that kind of brings us up. I'm looking at, once again, our questions here, and I'm looking at, especially like number 1 and number 2, about the mentors you have in your professional life and who inspires you.
Besides us.
Right.
Outside
Without
of Pam and Amber.
question. Without question.
Yeah, Suzanne, by the way, almost had a no duh look to her.
I did. I can confirm that. Yeah. So, mentors and people that have been served as my mentors and inspiration. I really can't speak to any one person, and that might be because I have moved around a lot.
Right.
I just try to find mentors in different areas of my life that might be a peer. A mentor.
Yes.
A mentor doesn't have to be your supervisor. It doesn't have to be someone 20 years older than you.
Right.
I've found just my peers to be fantastic mentors. And so that's kind of been, I can think of a lot of people that have helped me along the way that have been mentors, but I don't have just one mentor.
I think, from what I can tell, Suzanne, you kind of pull from everybody you meet, and you take the good in everyone that you meet, and you try to embody that, or at least that's what I've
She really
seen.
does. And then you end up telling her everything about your life. Because she's so mellow and calm.
Oh,
and
that's so
Yeah.
comes from
beautiful.
a non-judgmental place.
That yes,
That's
if that's
really sweet, you
that-
guys.
if I
No,
could say
it's true.
anything to our students, come in and talk to her, because you talk about a no judgment zone, a safe zone. That's exactly what you've created, and
Thank you.
and I think that's what I hear when I hear you say, I don't just pull from one. Well, it's hard to pull from one when
Right.
you know so many people, but you take the little bits and parts from everybody that you meet.
Right.
And-
Right. Well, thanks. I'm glad that that's something that you've been able to see, and because I don't know, I haven't necessarily always done that well, but we keep learning and
Yeah.
doing our best, right? So-
Right. We learn about ourselves, like I keep saying, this is we keep improving ourselves. And
We're each other's hype girls.
Oh, you need that. We need that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that about wraps it up. What do
Okay.
you think?
I just wanted to close it up with we always ask our guests, what is your learning out loud moment? And that could be here at WSU, online or on campus. What would you say?
Yeah. I would say just conversations with students. So I'm always learning from students. So
Yeah, same.
whether that's the one-on-ones that I've had, and I've had some really great one-on-ones, just hearing the stories and learning from the students. Also in the workshops, we've had five to seven students each workshop, and it's been very interactive and lots of good conversation flowing there. So those are my learning out loud moments, is when students start talking and opening up and I get to learn from them.
Definitely. Well, thank you for coming on our podcast. We might have you again
Yeah.
as we go into other workshops.
Yeah, I would love to
And
come
hype
talk
each other
about
up.
that. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.